Ethan Berman, Left Coast News.
Thank you so much for joining me here on Dispatch 43. There were a couple of big things that happened this weekend. I'm going to focus on two of them in today's show. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died. He was the leader of ISIS, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding that topic. And I think even bigger one, because it's being talked about a lot today, Game 5 of the Major League Baseball World Series was played last night in Washington, D.C., where the Washington Nationals were playing the Houston Astros. Spoiler, Houston won 7-1. And the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, was there with the First Lady of the United States of America, Melania Trump, and they got a reception that was totally different from a typical Trump rally. It included boos and chants of "lock him up." Take a listen. It's got a little taste of his own medicine. Here is a person, the President of the United States, who for the last several years at his rallies, especially during the campaign in 2016, led cheers of "lock her up" regarding Hillary Clinton. He did it repeatedly. His Attorney General at the time, Jeff Sessions, has led the chants. This is something that has gone on that is really despicable, something I've really had a problem with. And here's why: because the president has the power to do something about this. It's a problem when a political figure, this is what we talked about with J. Edgar Hoover abusing the FBI, when you can investigate your political opponents because they're a political opponent. Look at Joe Biden and the Ukraine thing, totally made up. These are crimes that President Trump is alleged to have committed. It is against the law to seek anything of any value, seek it, not even receive it, from a foreign power that is involved in an election. Joe Biden is President Trump's political opponent. If there really was such a concern about Biden's in Ukraine, that would have been brought up in 2017, in 2018, at any other time, let alone the obstruction of justice. There's a whole litany of crimes that President Trump is being accused of. So lock him up is not something I like. However, that is what he has sown. These are seeds that he has planted, and beyond seeds. He's watered them. He's given them sunlight. He's fertilized this concept. So a little pushback, to me, I totally understand. Whereas on MSNBC's Morning Joe today, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski took offense to lock him up. Now, I understand Trump sycophants doing that, right? I mean, like Charlie Kirk immediately tweeted something out, of which I had to point out to Charlie on Twitter. Charlie is head of Turning Point USA. It's a college-oriented group to encourage conservatives and very, very pro-Trump. And I had to point out to him that the polling data shows, he's like, oh, the middle of America loves Trump. No, actually it doesn't. Middle of America generally doesn't love Trump anymore. It's now only the South that seems to poll positively for Trump, and Idaho and Wyoming. That's it. Middle of America doesn't. Actually, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin are not pro-Trump. Illinois, very much not pro-Trump. The Dakotas are even, whether they like Trump or not. So that's a false statement by Trump supporters that the middle of America loves Trump. No, factually, they don't. But Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski really took issue. Take a listen to what they said this morning on MSNBC's Morning Joe.
Again, I speak to the lock him up chants. Yeah. It's un-American. It started with Donald Trump. In fact, he's made it a centerpiece of his campaign rallies.
We find it sickening when it happens at his rallies. I find it kind of sickening to watch people leering at the president.
We are Americans, and we do not do that. We do not want the world hearing us chant, lock him up, to this president or to any president. That's what I'm saying. Let's hope as we move forward, maybe this is one less fascist tactic he and his supporters use during chants, that you were going to actually imprison your political opponent.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with Joe and Mika that we're Americans. This isn't what we do. This is what we've been arguing against since Trump started doing this during his presidential campaign. So again, it's to give him a little taste of his own medicine. It was bizarre to watch the video too, because President Trump was like, yes, people are going to love me when they introduced him. And you could see his face slowly change as it dawned on him. He's not speaking at his rally. By the way, what makes this so fascinating about what happened in Washington, D.C. is at the Game 5 of the World Series, these are $800 a seat tickets. This is not blue collar workers. This is not inner city people from Baltimore. This is relatively wealthy elites around DC and in Virginia, many of whom benefit financially because of President Trump, possibly because of his tax scam, as many of us on the left call it, because all it's done is increase debt. So they had lower taxes. These are people that you might think would actually like President Trump because he has financially benefited them, because that's what all of his programs have done, is help the top 1%. Any other argument really is a continuation of a long string of things that have gone on. So that's what's fascinating, is he is so used to being cheered and celebrated because he only speaks to his own people. The one good news that came out of seeing his face as he was being booed was that there was a moment of pain. And I don't like people to be in pain, so don't get me wrong when I say that. I really don't. I like people to resolve their trauma and get to the root of what is causing them pain in their life and resolving that. In this case, for him to feel pain at all, to me, is a sign that he, of course, is fixable. If he would ever go to therapy, whatever that looks like, and address all the issues from his childhood, so he would stop being such a horrible human being to so many people, calling names, treating people poorly, calling them rapists, being racist, calling for a Muslim ban, which he did during the campaign, which ended up being a 7-country ban. These types of things, his racism, not renting to black people in apartments dating back to the 1970s. Let's get to the source of your trauma, Donald Trump. I think that you're a blocked artist. That daddy wanted you to be a real estate tycoon, gave you all this money and put you on a trajectory so you could never explore what you really wanted to do in life. Maybe that's the source of your trauma. So it was good news to see him actually feel pain. I was surprised. I didn't know that he would actually feel pain being booed. I'm very serious when I say that. So that was good news to see him being a human being. Now, so that was Joe Scarborough, who is a Republican, by the way, saying he didn't like the chanting of lock him up. But what about a Democrat? There was one this morning on CNN's New Day with John Berman. Connecticut Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat, came on and shared that he had problems with it as well. Take a listen to this.
Well, forgive me. I'm enough of a sort of traditionalist about our institutions that even at a time when there is a lot that our president does that I find disturbing, offensive, unconventional, I have a hard time with the idea of a crowd on a globally televised sporting event chanting "lock him up" about our president. I frankly think the office of the president deserves respect, even when the actions of our president at times don't. I certainly hope that we won't hear "lock him up" chants at Democratic rallies or at our convention. I think that's one of the most regrettable, even at times despicable, actions by candidate Trump when he was running for president in 2016.
Wow. Well, I agree with him that I hope at DNC official functions we're not hearing "lock him up," because that's what Trump did at official functions and at rallies, led chants and encouraged "lock her up," like "send her back" and "send them back," those chants. He did that. So I don't think the Democrats will do that. However, again, Senator Chris Coons has this wrong. He said it was only happening in 2016. Where has he been? Who is this guy? I'm totally serious. what's wrong with his ability to see what's going on in the world. How about this Trump rally from June 18th of 2019? This is not back in the 2016 campaign. This is after Trump announced his run for the 2020 re-election. This is now, not then. Take a listen to this rally.
After they set up an illegal server, destroyed evidence, deleted and acid-washed 33,000 emails, exposed classified information, and turned the State Department into a pay-for-play cash machine.
June 18th, 2019 Trump rally. Lock her up. And he, of course, lied. You don't acid wash a server. The whole thing about this server, by the way, with William Barr and Rudy Giuliani and everybody else, the Attorney General, by the way, William Barr, that's the whole problem here again of him saying lock her up, him encouraging chants of lock her up. He's in the position of power to abuse political power in the legal process, to investigate political opponents. And that is what is going on again right now and why he needs to be impeached. He's absolutely abusing his power. That alone is an impeachable offense. If you go back and read the Constitutional Convention, July 19th and 20th arguments in particular, you will see that is exactly what our founding fathers were thinking when they put that in our Constitution. It wasn't just, oh, he has to actually murder somebody on Fifth Avenue, which of course Trump's attorneys are now arguing he still couldn't be held accountable for that. But these are all things that are impeachable. Let me just describe really quickly why this argument about the server is total bunk as somebody with extensive background in information security, data centers, mail servers, etc. Simply this. An IP address tells you where a server is, first of all. When he's like, where's the server? Maybe it was in Ukraine. All you have to know is what was the IP address of the server. IP addresses on the internet, it's like a telephone number. You type in like yahoo.com or google.com. Well, that resolves to what is called an IP address, a numeric address, like an old phone book where you would look up a name and then you dial the phone number. That's the way DNS, domain names work on the internet. You type in google.com, it resolves to an IP address. That's where it is. IP addresses are allocated to internet providers within countries. So based on the IP address alone, I can tell you what country that server was in. You cannot spoof that. That's impossible. There are things you can do to spoof and make things happen from a certain server. But if that was where the name resolves to, then I know what country in which that server resides. Furthermore, they acid washed the servers. He means bleach bit. I have experience in zeroing out hard drives on sensitive servers. Let me tell you, that's what is a normal procedure when you're done with a server that contains anything that might contain private information. You zero it out. BleachBit just happens to be a commercial piece of software available to simplify the process. I can do it myself without having to buy software. That doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. This whole idea of physically examine the server, again, meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. The only reason I would ever want to physically examine a server is if the server has been deleted and I want to try and recover information off of maybe a RAID array. I want to physically access it so I can plug a USB key in to do a special boot routine to try to access the deleted data. That is the only reason I want physical access to a server nowadays. Logs will provide me everything else I want to know. So lock him up and booze at the Washington National game last night.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place.
You know, it's good news when a terrorist leader is no longer able to inflict terror upon the world, right? So much wrong with what President Trump said and how this is being spun. First off, you ever wonder what his focus is on dogs? Why does he hate dogs? He's like the first president in memory who doesn't have a dog. He doesn't like dogs. Dogs are great. Dogs are amazing. Dogs are wonderful, best friends to human beings. They're loyal. They're friendly. They keep us company. So many positive things about dogs. Why does he always say things like a dog? And it's like he doesn't understand anything about dogs. But he said that again, died like a dog. How do dogs die? Does President Trump frequent the Yulin Dog Torture Festival or something in China that still goes on, which absolutely should be banned, and that should be part of our discussions with China, by the way. I understand cultural things, but that's just torture. They literally torture dogs to death. Is that what our president does when he goes and visits China? Is he tries to go at that time when they do that? Because I don't understand, why would you say he died like a dog? Anyhow, so Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead, and everything around it refutes Trump's approach to the world and our intelligence services. And Trumpublicans, they say, I don't trust the CIA. I don't trust the FBI. Well, and by the way, we're going to withdraw our troops because we shouldn't be involved in foreign wars, which is a lie. And now we're protecting oil fields in Syria, and we're sending 2,000 troops to Saudi Arabia. Total abject hypocrisy and rank lying on the part of the president about our approach to troops. So we threw the Kurds to the wind, and Turkey continues to use genocidal language toward the Kurds. Who gave us the intelligence? Well, first off, it was the CIA, who is connected with the Kurds. The Kurds allegedly gave us the majority of the information that actually led to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who is dead. And so first off, do you trust the CIA or not? Yeah, well, the CIA gave us the info. It was the Kurds who gave us the info, who we have thrown to the wind, or thrown out to the wolves, I should say. And that's where it's coming from. So, and then on top of it all, President Trump thanked Russia first. I want to thank Russia. And not only did he say, I want to thank Russia, he talked to Russia before he talked to the number 3 person in the United States government, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Every president, I don't care what kind of partisan rancor is going on in our country, you talk to the number 3 before you talk to a foreign adversary at that, which is Russia. What is Trump's deal with Russia? I still want to know his tax returns. I still want to see what his connections are, why he continues to show loyalty and fealty to Vladimir Putin before our own country is really bizarre, and demonstrates why the impeachment process must continue, because this guy continues to show loyalty to them over our own people. But here's the other thing too, as has been pointed out, I tweeted about this, really upset a lot of people. President Trump back in 2012 tweeted out, don't give credit to Barack Obama for getting bin Laden. It was the Navy SEALs who got him. That's all over my social media. You can see my posts on that. So we can't credit Trump for getting al-Baghdadi. We credit our special forces. We credit the CIA and Standard Intelligence Gathering, and we credit our friends, the Kurds. That's who we credit for this, which is good news. But as we know from ISIS in particular, more so than Al-Qaeda, is it's really set up to be decentralized. While Baghdadi may have created ISIS, while Baghdadi may have been a leader, they've already announced a replacement leader. They already have the tools in place to allow the cells to operate independently. We've seen this in a number of the terror attacks that have happened in Europe in particular, and North America as well, where they are independent operators. So again, I am glad that our intelligence did its job. I'm glad special forces put together an operation plan. I'm glad the president signed off on it. And I am happy that special forces executed properly and no Americans were killed in the process. That's great. But I don't credit Trump for it any more than you didn't credit Obama for getting bin Laden. Because it's really not the president who does these things. The president will say, hey, look, I want to make this a priority. But that's up to the CIA. That's up to our special forces. There are a lot of people involved, and I credit each and every one of them. And I say, stop with the ridiculous idea that Trump is pulling us out of foreign wars. That hasn't happened. He redeployed them around oil fields. Sick, twisted, bad news. Well, sick and twisted is ISIS. Bad news is ISIS. Good news, Kurds. Good news, one of their leaders of the ISIS is now dead. And we can move on from that to the next round of everything that's going on with impeachment hearings and everything else. Hey, look, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Will you please share the podcast with a friend or 10? Also, follow me on social media. Twitter is Ethan Behrman. Facebook is facebook.com/Ethan Behrman Show. Instagram, Ethan Behrman. You can subscribe to this podcast, and however you're listening to this, give it a subscribe. That helps in every way. So again, thank you so much for listening, and keep an eye. I believe I'm on with Laura Ingraham tomorrow night on Fox News. Not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but please tune into that as well. And I'll talk to you in the next Dispatch.